Chess.
You play with her chest?
No, chess, Fonzie. The game, chess.
Try to picture American television without Happy Days. Difficult, right? For over a decade, this show defined what it meant to be nostalgic, what it meant to be cool, and what it meant to find joy in simpler times.
I'm gonna do something for you, Cunningham, I never did for anybody before. I'm gonna teach you the secret of being tough.
Premiering in 1974, Happy Days transported viewers back to the 1950s Milwaukee, a world of diners, jukeboxes, and leather jackets. Its wholesome humor and lovable characters made it a cultural phenomenon. But behind those bright smiles and laugh tracks, tensions were brewing. Several beloved stars eventually walked away from Arnold's drive-in for good. Were their exits about money, creative differences, or something deeper? The truth might surprise you. Let's take a closer look at what really happened. Before we dive into the departures, let's rewind and understand how Happy Days became the juggernaut it was. The show was born from a segment on the anthology series Love American Style, back in 1972. Producer Gary Marshall saw potential in this nostalgic concept, a family sitcom set in the innocent 1950s that could offer comfort during the turbulent 1970s. When Happy Days premiered on January 15, 1974, it centered around the Cunningham family, all-American teenager Richie, played by Ron Howard, his parents Howard and Marion, and eventually, the breakout character who would change everything, Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, played by Henry Winkler. Initially, the show struggled. The first season focused heavily on Richie and his wholesome adventures, but ratings were lukewarm. Then something unexpected happened. Audiences couldn't get enough of Fonzie, the cool greaser who was supposed to be a supporting character. By season 2, the Fonz was front and center, leather jacket and all. The show skyrocketed to number 1, where it stayed for years. But here's the thing about sudden success, it changes dynamics. It shifts power, and it creates tension. As Happy Days evolved from an ensemble family sitcom into the Fonzie show, not everyone was thrilled. Some actors felt sidelined. Others wanted to grow beyond their characters, and a few simply burned out under the pressure of maintaining a hit show. Over its 11-season run, Happy Days saw several major cast changes. But through it all, one question lingered. Why would anyone leave a show at the height of its popularity? Let's find out. If you ask fans about Happy Days, they'll tell you it's Fonzie's show. But if you ask the creators, they'll tell you it was always Richie Cunningham's story. Ron Howard was the heart, the anchor, the all-American boy next door who made audiences believe in goodness. Ron wasn't new to Hollywood when he landed the role. He'd been acting since childhood, most notably as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. By the time Happy Days premiered, Ron was 19 years old, technically an adult, but still playing a high school kid, and he played it brilliantly. Richie was earnest, kind, occasionally awkward, but always trying to do the right thing. For the first few seasons, Ron was content. The show was finding its footing, the cast was tight-knit, and he was learning the craft of television. But as Happy Days became a phenomenon, something shifted. Behind the scenes, Ron was developing a passion that had nothing to do with acting-directing. During the show's run, Ron started directing episodes. He'd watch the director's work, ask questions, study camera angles and story structure. In interviews, he later admitted, "I realized I was more interested in what was happening behind the camera than in front of it." By season 7, Ron knew his time on Happy Days was coming to an end. But here's where things get interesting. Unlike other actors who left abruptly or amid controversy, Ron approached his exit with careful planning. He didn't want to abandon the show that had given him so much. He wanted to leave with grace. In a meeting with Gary Marshall, Ron laid out his plan. He'd continue through season 7, giving the writers time to transition his character out naturally. The result was one of the most touching exits in sitcom history. In the two-part episode, A Case of Divorce, Richie heads off to Hollywood to pursue screenwriting, mirroring Ron's own dreams of filmmaking. The goodbye scene between Richie and Fonzie is genuinely moving. No jokes, no laughs, just two friends acknowledging that life moves forward. When it aired, fans were heartbroken but understanding. Ron had earned that goodwill. Let's just say things worked out pretty well for him. After leaving Happy Days, Ron directed Night Shift in 1982, then Splash in 1984, followed by Cocoon, and eventually Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, which won him an Oscar, and countless other successful films. Today, Ron Howard is one of Hollywood's most respected directors. In retrospect, his departure wasn't about conflict or frustration. It was about a young man recognizing his true calling and having the courage to pursue it. Gary Marshall later said, "Ron left the right way. He didn't burn bridges, he built them." Still, his absence left a noticeable void. Happy Days continued for 4 more seasons without him, but it was never quite the same. The show had lost its moral center, its everyman, and while Fonzie could make audiences laugh, he couldn't quite fill the emotional space Richie left behind. While Ron Howard left to chase directing dreams, Donny Most's exit from Happy Days tells a different story, one about typecasting, creative frustration, and the struggle to be taken seriously. Donny played Ralph Malph, Richie's wisecracking best friend with a punchline for every situation. Ralph was the comic relief, the guy who never quite got the girl but always got the laugh. And Donny played him perfectly, too perfectly as it turned out. Here's the thing about playing the funny sidekick. It's a trap. You become so associated with that one note that breaking out becomes nearly impossible. And Donny felt it. By season 7, the same season Ron Howard was planning his exit, Donny was growing restless. In interviews years later, Donny explained, "Ralph was fun, but he wasn't evolving. Every episode was the same. I'd crack jokes, get shot down, and that was it. I wanted to show I could do more." He approached the writers multiple times, asking for storylines that would give Ralph depth. A serious relationship, a career struggle, anything to show dimension. But the writers were hesitant. Happy Days had a formula, and that formula was working. Why fix what isn't broken? The frustration built. Donny watched as other characters got dramatic moments. Fonzie had his dyslexia storyline, Richie had his love life, even Potsy got occasional spotlight episodes. But Ralph stayed the clown, and Donny felt stuck. Unlike Ron, Donny's exit wasn't carefully planned or warmly executed. At the end of season 7, he simply didn't renew his contract. No fanfare, no special goodbye episode. Ralph Malph just disappeared. One episode he was there, the next he wasn't. The show explained it away with a throwaway line about Ralph moving to Hollywood. The aftermath was rough. Donny struggled to find work that wasn't just the funny guy. Casting directors saw him as Ralph Malph, and Ralph Malph only. He did guest spots on various shows, tried stand-up comedy, even pursued a music career, but nothing stuck the way Happy Days had. There's a painful irony here. Donny left because he felt trapped by the character, but leaving didn't free him, it just made the trap more visible. For years, he wrestled with bitterness about it. In a 2008 interview, he admitted, "I spent a long time angry. Angry at the show, angry at myself for leaving, angry at Hollywood." But here's where the story gets redemptive. Eventually, Donny made peace with Ralph Malph. He started doing Happy Days reunions, conventions, and even a stage show celebrating the series. He realized that while Ralph may have been one note, that note brought joy to millions. And that wasn't nothing. Today, Donny performs in Vegas and around the country, often incorporating Happy Days nostalgia into his act. He's no longer running from Ralph, He's embraced him, and audiences love him for it. If Ron Howard's exit was graceful and Donny Most's was frustrated, Erin Moran's story is simply heartbreaking. She didn't leave Happy Days by choice, she stayed until the bitter end. But what happened after the show ended reveals the darker side of child stardom. Erin played Joanie Cunningham, Richie's little sister who grew up on screen before America's eyes. She joined the cast at age 13, and by the time Happy Days ended in 1984, she was 23 years old. A decade of her life, her entire adolescence, spent on that set. During the show's run, Erin was beloved. Joanie evolved from an annoying kid sister into a central character, eventually getting her own spin-off, Joanie Loves Chachi, with Scott Baio. But here's where the cracks began to show. The spin-off failed after just 17 episodes, and Erin was folded back into Happy Days for its final season. That failure stung. Erin had believed the spin-off would launch her adult career, prove she could carry a show. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about forcing spin-offs too soon. But she kept her head down and finished Happy Days with professionalism. The real trouble came after. Unlike Ron, who transitioned seamlessly into directing, Erin found herself adrift. She'd been acting since childhood, knew nothing else, but Hollywood had moved on. The roles dried up. Casting directors saw her as Joanie Cunningham, that perky teenage girl from the 70s, and nothing more. Over the years, Erin's struggles became public and painful. Financial troubles, addiction issues, estrangement from cast members, her life became tabloid fodder. In 2012, she was reportedly evicted from her home. Photos surfaced showing her looking rough, far from the bright-eyed girl America remembered. The cast tried to help. Henry Winkler reached out multiple times. So did Marion Ross. But Erin's demons were deep, rooted in a childhood spent performing, in an identity so wrapped up in a character that when the character ended, she didn't know who she was. In 2017, Erin Moran died at age 56 from complications related to throat cancer. The news devastated fans and cast members alike. Henry Winkler posted a heartfelt tribute, calling her a wonderful, giving person. Ron Howard tweeted, "Such sad news. R.I.P. Erin." Erin's story isn't about why she left Happy Days, it's about what Happy Days left her with. Child stardom is a double-edged sword. It gives young actors fame, money, and opportunity, but it also takes away normalcy, privacy, and the chance to develop outside the spotlight. Erin never really escaped Joanie Cunningham, and in the end, that weight became too much to bear. Her legacy is complicated. She brought joy to millions as Joanie, but her life reminds us that behind every sitcom smile is a real person with real struggles. The laughter doesn't always last. It's worth noting that while others left, Henry Winkler stayed through all 11 seasons. Despite becoming a massive star, arguably the biggest to emerge from Happy Days, he honored his commitment. But that loyalty came with its own price. Henry has spoken openly about how being the Fonz nearly destroyed his career. After Happy Days ended, he couldn't get serious roles. Directors would say, "We love you, but we can't see past the leather jacket." It took decades for Henry to break free, finally earning widespread acclaim for his role in Barry, which won him an Emmy in 2018 at age 72. When asked about staying when others left, Henry once said, "That show gave me everything. How could I walk away from that? You honor your commitments. You finish what you start." That integrity defines him, and it makes the exits of others feel even more complicated. Happy Days ended in 1984 after 255 episodes, forever cementing itself in television history. The actors who left did so for different reasons: ambition, frustration, circumstance. Some thrived afterward. Some struggled. Some, tragically, never found their way. But here's what they all shared: the courage to walk away from comfort, from success, from a paycheck, in search of something more. Whether they found it or not, that courage deserves recognition.